Admiral Christopher Grady, United States Navy, Commander, United States Fleet Forces Command, accompanied by the Honorable Bill de Blasio, 109th Mayor of the City of New York, Dr. Libby O'Connell, Commissioner, United States World War I Centennial Commission, Lieutenant General Mark Brelakis, United States Marine Corps, Commander, United States Marine Corps Forces Command, and Vice Admiral Scott Bushman, United States Coast Guard, Commander, United States Coast Guard, Atlantic Area. Ladies and gentlemen, the presentation of colors. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Admiral Christopher Grady, United States Navy, Commander, United States Fleet Forces Command.
Good evening. It is absolutely wonderful to be back here in New York City. And on behalf of all of our nation's sea services, welcome to Fleet Week New York 2019, the 31st year of this best of all Fleet Weeks. First, let me extend a very special welcome to Mayor de Blasio of New York City, to Mayor Phillip of Jersey City, and to Dr. Libby O'Connell of the World War I Centennial Commission. How about a round of applause for our distinguished visitors? And of course, I would like to personally thank the senior representatives from my fellow sea services for making this year's Fleet Week another resounding success. So joining me on the platform today are Lieutenant General Mark Brelakis, the Commander of Marine Forces Command, and Vice Admiral Scott Bushman, the Commander of U.S. Coast Guard Atlantic Area. How about a round of applause for these distinguished warriors? Distinguished guests, unit commanding officers, and friends of the Sea Services, thank you for joining me tonight to officially kick off Fleet Week New York 2019. And I must say, what a truly outstanding venue this is. I am beyond pleased that we were able to join with the World War I Centennial Commission and host you here at this beautiful and historic Alexander Hamilton Customs House. And I hope each of you take a moment to just soak in the history that is here in this building and as represented by the nautical murals by the noted American painter Reginald Marsh. Please thank your lucky stars that you get to spend an evening in such a wonderful venue here in the world's greatest city. And it's certainly a fitting location, a symbol of not only this city's, but our entire nation's foundational connection with the sea, a connection that has been true since colonial times and absolutely still holds true today. We have an excellent program for you tonight. Secretary Spencer, our Secretary of the Navy, designated this year's Fleet Week as the department's culminating event for our celebration of the World War I centennial. It was 100 years ago that we welcomed home our American Expeditionary Force from Europe, the majority of which returned right here to New York Harbor. You've already heard a little bit about that in the narration before we began the program. What's more, you'll get a chance to see a short video from the Centennial Commission, and we'll finish with a live performance from the Hello Girls, a sampler, Mr. Mayor, who are currently starring in their newly debuted musical of the same name. Fleet Week New York is an outstanding opportunity for the people of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, but indeed the entire nation to get to know their sea services, their Navy, their Marine Corps, their Coast Guard. And it's a chance for us to raise general awareness of the role that we play for our great nation. Furthermore, I think it provides us a special occasion to celebrate the outstanding people who volunteered to serve their nation. And I have long held firm to the belief that our sailors, our Marines, our Coast Guardsmen should be regarded as the center of the universe. Indeed, our legacy is defined by a long list of great accomplishments by these warriors throughout our national history. They are our greatest competitive advantage. So I encourage you to speak with them in your encounters around the city this week, and I am confident that they will make you proud, knowing that your nation is in great hands. Now, I will tell you that your Navy and your Marine Corps and your Coast Guard are certainly very busy. The Navy currently has 289 battle force ships, with 92 underway or forward deployed. The Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group recently finished an expedited transit through the Suez Canal and is now in the Gulf of Oman. There, she is conducting combined training with the Kearsarge Amphibious Readiness Group and the embarked 22nd MEU. As I'm sure you have seen in the news, these forces are in theater as a deterrent against further destabilizing actions by Iran or its proxy forces. And this rapid demonstration of the Navy and the Naval Service's inherent flexibility, mobility, and capability is unique in the world. Indeed, also right now, the Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group is operating in the Gulf of Alaska with the 1st Marine Air Wing and elements of the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force as part of Exercise Northern Edge, an exercise that includes over 10,000 military personnel and is preparing our joint forces for crises in the Indo-Pacific Command. And let's not forget the daily work of our vaunted United States Coast Guard, carrying out their triple mission of maritime safety, maritime security, and maritime stewardship, and yet still fighting forward alongside the Navy and Marine Corps, one Sea Service team, hundreds of Coast Guardsmen supporting the United States Fifth Fleet in the Arabian Gulf and our United States Fifth Fleet. Or all you have to think about is the Coast Guard cutter Bertolf, who sailed alongside our guided missile destroyer Curtis Wilbur through the Straits of Taiwan just 2 months ago. So with all of this activity, it's easy to lose track of the value that we bring to the American people each and every day. And so I think it's very important that we understand the why behind everything that we are doing. Now, since before our founding days, America has been heavily dependent on seaborne commerce. Our prosperity is inextricably linked to our ability to operate freely in the global maritime commerce. But don't take my word for it. Listen to our founding father and our first president, George Washington, who related the awesome value of a navy when he said, "It follows then, as certain as night succeeds the day, that without a decisive naval force, we can do nothing definitive, and with it, everything honorable and glorious." And by honorable and glorious, he was conveying our livelihoods are tied to the world's oceans, that the seas are the prime facilitator of our prosperity. He recognized that free and open seas don't happen automatically, and that we had to protect our interests against the likes of Britain, France, and the Barbary States, who preyed upon our overseas interests in our nation's infancy. Now, New Yorkers have answered the call to defend our national interests on the seas from the very beginning. One of our earliest naval heroes is Commodore Thomas Truxtun of Hempstead in Long Island. Truxtun was originally a merchant mariner. He operated as a privateer during the Revolutionary War, and later was one of the original 6 captains appointed by President Washington to take the fight to the French in the Quasi-War. Leading the Yankee Boys, as they were known, the Yankee Boys of USS Constellation, Truxtun did much to restore our national honor by defeating the more heavily armed insurgents in our newly reformed Navy's first engagement with an enemy ship. So President Washington understood that for our nation to prosper, we must have not only a naval force that can operate around the world defending our interests in times of peace, but that it must also be ready to fight and win decisively when called upon in times of war. In the modern context, your sea services defend far forward, and I always like to say that your sea services are America's varsity away team. We are America's varsity global team. And in today's globalized world, the seas are more congested, they are more contested, and the security environment more complex than at any time in recent history. So what we do is more vital to securing America's place in the world. And as Robert Kaplan recently remarked in a Washington Post editorial, a naval century is upon us. Now, shifting back to World War I would like to briefly share what I think the Navy as an institution learned from that war. And while the sea services were not the main effort, the bravery of our devil dogs at Belleau Wood notwithstanding, our contribution was certainly significant to the Allied victory. Our primary mission was to protect the sea lanes against the submarine threat and transport 1.4 million doughboys and those devil dogs I just talked about to the fight in Europe. And I will note that we performed admirably with none lost to the enemy en route. More importantly, though, and just as World War I set the stage for the nation that we became, the Navy matured as an organization through this experience. In fact, we were faced with fighting a war different than that which we planned for. There was no Mahanian decisive battle for us to defeat the enemy's forces. Instead, it forced us to become more flexible in thought, to become more adaptive, and become a modern institution. It was a truly formative experience, as it was for the entire nation and indeed the entire world. And I would submit it set the stage for our victory in World War II. And of course, New York City played a central role in America's fight in World War I, as it has in so many pivotal moments in our nation's history. This is where we witnessed the fleet's victorious return from the Spanish-American War and ticker tape parades following World War II. And of course, America's can-do shipyard, the Brooklyn Naval Yard, generated so much of our fighting power. The people of New York always display wonderful hospitality, and we are grateful to partner with the city year after year to host Fleet Week, as I said, now in its 31st year. So now it is my great honor to introduce the 109th Mayor of New York City, the greatest Navy town, the Honorable Bill de Blasio. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Admiral, you can keep repeating the greatest Navy town as often as you like. We support that here in New York. And everyone, I'm so happy to be with you this evening. And I just want to start with a deep sense of appreciation, a profound thanks to all the men and women of our sea services. We welcome you every year in New York. We welcome you because we honor you. We welcome you because we know all you do to protect us and to protect all Americans. And it's not easy, but we say thank you from all our heart. You make a lot of sacrifices for all of us. And Fleet Week is just a small way that we show our appreciation. But remember, Fleet Week is a brief period of each year, but every day we are thankful for you. And I'm thankful for Admiral Grady as well. And Admiral, do I understand correctly, it is 35 years you have served your nation? 35 years, that's something amazing. Admiral, I look up to you as a leader. I admire what you've achieved. And I hope to emulate it in everything I do, but there's one difference in our situation. Is you have a lot of wonderful men and women under your command who immediately, when you give an instruction, an order, I know they follow it immediately. By comparison, I represent 8.6 million highly opinionated people. So that is the nature of New York City, a lot of passion, strong views on everything. But one thing that truly unites New Yorkers, we love Fleet Week because we love to celebrate our sea services. And Admiral, it's been our honor for 31 years to host this Fleet Week. And I'd just like to give credit where credit is due to two people who have put their heart and soul into making sure that Fleet Week will be great for all the men and women of our sea services. First of all, a woman who runs our whole citywide events operation to make sure things like this come off without a hitch and celebrate the people we're here to honor. Let's thank our director, Ellen Canfield, for her good work. And some of you may have gotten to know a force of nature who also carries the title of commissioner. She used to carry the title of general, and she runs with such extraordinary energy our Department of Veterans Services. Let's thank Lori Sutton for all she does. Those of you who know Lori, I just want to make a comment. I often make whatever she's eating for breakfast, I want to eat it too. So this Fleet Week has a special meaning. And you know we're all focused on an anniversary of such profound importance. Last November, we gathered for our annual Veterans Parade. And we all know that 11th hour, the 11th month, the 11th week, 11th month, let me get it right. The 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month. Thank you. Lifeline, thank you. We gathered solemnly and we remembered all those who had served us. 100 years at that moment since that war ended. For New Yorkers, the contributions, the sacrifices were extraordinary. 13,876 New Yorkers gave their lives for this nation and for the freedom of people all over this world. And we should remember them with all our heart. It's a century later, but we hope in everything we do to carry on their legacy, that legacy of courage, and to keep building upon it. Now, we all know there have been those moments when courage was called for and resolve was called for, and when our city needed you, and every time you've been there. In 2012, we dealt with our greatest natural disaster in our history. We dealt with the forces of nature thrown at us with Superstorm Sandy, and our sea services were there to help us, to protect us, to help us recover. In 2001, we were attacked by the forces of evil on September 11th, and our sea services were there when we needed them most. So that tradition is carried on in such an exemplary fashion today. And this city feels it in so many ways. The history the Admiral spoke about is so real to all of us. But the present is powerful as well, and we are proud of this fact. New York City is home to 210,000 veterans and their families, and we honor them all. And as I think we all agree, words are good, but actions are better. And when we created that Department of Veterans Services and named Lori Sutton as the commissioner, it was with a devotion to our veterans, to their employment, to their health care, both physical and mental health, to make sure that any time a veteran was without a home, that we would be there for them. We like to express our gratitude in many ways, and our Department of Veterans Services is there every day for those who have done so much for us. I just want to say on a personal note, when I think of our armed services, I think of the extraordinary commitment that I heard about from the members of my family that I saw with my own eyes. Because my parents happened to be the World War II generation. And my mom and dad served each in their own way, and my wife Charlene's mom and dad served. My wife's mom served in the Springfield, Massachusetts Armory. My mom served in the Office of War Information right here in Manhattan. Charlene's dad served in the Army in Europe, and my dad served in the Army in the Pacific. But I must admit, Admiral, a truth that has come down through family lore. My dad was almost exactly my same height. After Pearl Harbor, he immediately volunteered. He, as a young man, had spent a lot of time sailing, and his hope was to join the Navy. But he was denied because of height. Now, we honor the Army where he served. We really do with all our heart. But I want on record that he wanted you guys first. So we have the deepest appreciation in our household as we do in our city. And I'll conclude with this. We hope this week is something very special for all of you. We hope you feel the love and the appreciation of this city for you. We hope you know that people will go out of their way to give you a chance to relax and unwind and really enjoy this time off, because we know how hard you work all the rest of the year. So on behalf of 8.6 million New Yorkers who actually agree on this one thing, I wish you a joyous, fulfilling Fleet Week. And I say to everyone here, thank you and God bless you all. Admiral, I'd like to present you with a small token of the esteem of New York City. And you all can't see this well enough, but it is a classic. Our New York City archives just located this photo and framed it especially for you, Admiral. This is a beautiful image from the very first Veterans Day Parade, 1919. And it's a reminder. Indeed. It's a reminder, Admiral, that we're not new at celebrating and respecting our military, and this year is going to be the greatest year we've had.
Sir, allow me to reciprocate and to thank you and the entire city of New York and your 8.6 million friends. That we can't think of a better place to spend a weekend on a Memorial Day than here. So thank you for all you do.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Libby O'Connell, Commissioner, United States World War I Centennial Commission.
I don't think the Navy would turn me down for height. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. What an honor it is to be here tonight on behalf of the United States World War I Centennial Commission, sharing this moment with the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Marine Corps, and the U.S. Coast Guards. Welcome to Fleet Week. And thank you, of course, to our mayor of what I think of as the greatest city in the world, New York City Mayor de Blasio. Thank you so much for joining us. I just came home to New York from a 3-day excursion on the USS New York, sailing on board from Norfolk, Virginia, and into New York Harbor this morning with Captain DeVore and his talented and hospitable crew. I got to see an LCAT hovercraft come on board the ship, watch an Osprey helicopter land, and observe something that I know what this means. It was an UNREP. That means I'm learning all these acronyms. I don't think any group, any company I've ever worked for has more acronyms than the sea services. Do you think that's fair to say? I think that's true. And I enjoyed the wonderful company on board. And I also got to sail into New York Harbor past the Statue of Liberty. 100 years ago today, our Navy was bringing home 2 million Americans from the most devastating war the world had ever seen. Most of them, as we've heard, came right through New York Harbor. And one of them, I'd like to quote a young sailor, homeward bound, Nelson Kling, who wrote his mom, saying, "When we first got a glimpse of the Statue of Liberty, there were close to 2,000 men and every man on deck with his eyes peeled open. A cheer went out over the water, and it seemed like the ship herself came to attention." I know how he felt a little bit. I can only imagine how those men and women felt when they came back through New York Harbor. We are here tonight to commemorate the centennial of the return from the Great War, a war that transformed the United States and the world and created the modern age in military terms, in art and music, in social structure, in our finances. 117,000 Americans died in that conflict, more than Vietnam and Korea combined. The people who fought in that war came from all backgrounds and ethnicities, like James Reese Europe, a band leader from Harlem who served in the 369th, and he helped popularize jazz in Paris. Or people like Dan Daly, a Marine Corpsman awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor not just once, but twice for his service, and famous for action at Bella Woods in France. Buried right here in New York at Cypress Hill Cemetery. Or the sailors on the USS San Diego, sailing up the coast of New York. Their ship was torpedoed by a German submarine, and there was severe loss of life. No one knew that submarines were right along that coast. Or Grace Banker, chief operator of the Mobile Communications Group, known to us today in the Signal Corps as the Hello Girls, about who we'll learn more in a minute. She received the Distinguished Service Medal from General Pershing himself 100 years ago today. These are just a few of the 4.5 million Americans who were mobilized for the Great War. But still, there is no national World War I monument in Washington, D.C. The U.S. World War I Centennial Commission has been chartered by Congress to create a beautiful memorial park, and we are closing in on the finish line. We hope you will join us. We need you to join us to cross that finish line, and with your help, there will be a World War I memorial in our nation's capital, and the World War I generation will be remembered. I'm honored to have my fellow commissioners join us. Commissioners, raise your hand, please. If you have questions, please ask them, or go to our website, www.1cc.org. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Have a wonderful time at Fleet Week. I know New York is always so proud to host our sea services. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, as our official party departs the stage, please direct your attention to the two screens in the room. Thank you.
In April 1917, America entered the First World War. Upon arriving in France, General Pershing, the leader of the American Expeditionary Forces, soon realized that in order to fight a modern war across fronts that spanned hundreds of miles, he needed a state-of-the-art telephone system, like the one he was accustomed to back home. Neither the all-male Signal Corps officers nor the local French telephone operators were fast enough, and so the call went out. Advertisements ran in newspapers all around the country, and young women everywhere leapt at the chance to do their bit for their country. In the space of a few months, the War Department received applications from over 7,000 women seeking to serve. Because of her experience as a chief operator at Bell Telephone, Grace Banker was selected to lead the first unit of 33 women, which shipped out from Hoboken on March 2nd, 1918.
What's with the butterflies? Haven't you wanted this, Gracie? You've got to be tough. Stop with the waffling. Haven't you felt like you haven't been doing enough?
After a perilous 11 days crossing the Atlantic, the group of 33 women was divided into 3 sections and went to various outposts. Grace's group was assigned to General Pershing's headquarters in Chaumont. As the new recruits got to work, American soldiers, after months of dealing with male or French operators, rejoiced.
The greatest gift this army could bestow is hearing proper operators say hello.
As the summer of 1918 wore on, American troops began to see more and more action, but the women were kept out of any danger, serving many miles from the front. Male operators continued to run the so-called fighting lines during actual battles, even though it was generally acknowledged that the female operators were far more efficient at the work. In late August, as the AEF prepared for their biggest campaign yet at Saint-Mihiel, the Army decided that perhaps women were needed at the front after all. When the opportunity arose, nearly every hello girl in France volunteered.
We gotta be where it's life and live, where it's sink or swim, where we're laying it all on the line like him. We wanna share in the honor of bearing that front. We gotta be at the front.
Grace Banker was among those selected to serve at the front in the Battle of Saint-Mihiel. From there, the team was sent north and ran the fighting lines during the Meuse-Argonne offensive that led to the war's end. Conditions at the front were harsh. The women worked long hours with little sleep, often within range of German artillery.
Ladies, this is the G3 board. These are the fighting lines, and we expect they will all be in use almost all of the time.
One day near the war's end, the building in which the women worked caught fire. Despite the danger, Grace and her team refused to leave their post until they were eventually threatened with court-martial. Even then, they returned to work as soon as the fire was out. For her heroism and leadership during her time at the front, Grace Banker was awarded the Distinguished Service Medal, the Army's highest honor. Today, May 22nd, is the centennial of when Grace Banker received her medal. When the Hello Girls returned home after the war, they were informed by the government that they were not eligible for veterans' benefits. They were, according to the Veterans Administration, civilian contractors. A group of the women decided to keep fighting. They began a legal battle with the U.S. government that lasted for 60 years, persisting, working to have their role in the war acknowledged equally with the men's.
And maybe I've gotten as far as a woman can get for now. But maybe the struggle has just begun. And maybe because of the things you've done, others will follow. And they will go further.
Finally, in 1977, the Hello Girls were granted veteran status by the U.S. Congress. Of the 223 women who served overseas, only 33 survived to receive their honorable discharge papers. Today, we remember and celebrate the service of the Hello Girls, America's first female soldiers. This is their story.
It's the year 1918. For 3 years, Europe has been locked in a deadly struggle from which there seems to be no exit, until a new nation enters the scene.
Imagine our stage as the scene of a battle as vast as the meadows of France.
Hear the howitzers roar and the Browning guns rattle as 10,000 soldiers advance.
And if you believe that our words have the power to conjure and capture it all,
When the trumpet is sounding the charge, will you answer the call?
will you answer the call? Will you answer the fray? Will you step up and look for a part you can play? Are you ready to join in? Come along for it all. If you have the chance, will you answer the call?
Welcome to Bell Telephone Headquarters, New York City. Our operators connect over 300 calls per hour. Don't worry, we'll have you up to speed in no time. What number, please?
One moment, sir.
I'm sorry, that line is busy. What number, please? I'll put you right through.
Go ahead.
No answer. Thank you. What number, please? I'll put you right through. That's Nightingale 6374.
Still waiting.
It's ringing.
Would you like me to try a different number?
Suzanne, you know you shouldn't call me when we're working. But this is important. What is it? Did you see the ad in the paper today? They're looking for operators to send to France. Who is? The Army, Grace. The U.S. Army. So, they want us to train the troops? No, they want us to be the troops. To serve as operators. Over there. Listen, Suzanne, I knew it was meant for us. The ad says you gotta speak French. They need the operators to be able to translate. But I haven't spoken French since college. Tu dois avoir la foi, mon ami. I must have the goose liver?
Not foie gras, la foi. Didn't you major in French?
Well, it was a double major, actually. French and history.
So join the army with me. Speak French and make history.
We sent them letters of reference filled out every form they could want. We showed incredible deference, sat through their interrogation nonchalant. They did their darndest to shake us up, none of that could make us upset. We've been pressed and assessed and we passed every test, but we aren't in the army yet.
Helen Hill from Emmett, Idaho.
That's me, sir!
Your French is surprisingly good for someone whose occupation is listed as a farm girl.
I know. Vous ne pouviez pas vous y attendre, mais maman nous parlait toujours en français quand on était petit.
Bertha Hunt.
Here.
You're a top candidate in many respects, and we have made exceptions for a few married women. But you are quite a bit older than our preferred age range.
I'm 33. I'm not decrepit.
Say the last name again for me.
Le Breton. Louise Le Breton.
Sounds very French.
I was born in France. Ever since this war began, I have longed to go back to France to fight. After what the Germans have done to my homeland, I would go back 1,000 times, even if I knew the day I landed in France would be my last.
Indoctrinated, but through our paces, we've been fingerprinted, photographed, like the man they draft, all while never breaking a sweat. But are we in the army? Are we in the army? Are we in the army?
Louise Le Breton, Bertha Hunt, Helen Hill, Suzanne Prevost. Report to Bell Telephone Headquarters, New York City, and await further orders.
You bet!
Oh, and Grace Baker, come with me. A civilian does not salute.
Sorry.
Miss Banker, forgive me if this seems abrupt, but we're near the end of our process and we've already selected most of the women for our first unit.
I understand, and I only ask that I be given another chance to reapply for the second unit.
The second unit?
If the Army needs more operators, I know I can do better.
Miss Baker, I don't think you understand. We want you to head up the first unit.
To head it up.
Chief operator. It's the same job you've been doing for Bell, only now you do it for the Army. That is, if you accept the post.
Oh. Well, what would I have to do? No, that doesn't matter. I accept.
Excellent. You'll have 3 weeks of basic training with your team in New York, and then we'll ship out. We'll be on the RMS Celtic of the White Star Line. Muster is at 7 o'clock sharp, and we sail at 9. Pack your kits, get some rest, and don't be late.
There it is. No turning back now.
That's a big boat! I've never been on a boat before! It's a ship, Helen.
Hard to believe I'm really going home.
Hard to believe I'm really leaving home. I wonder if I'll see my family again. I wonder if I'll see my husband again. I wonder if we'll float. So many people getting in one tin can.
Solemn crowd, the sunless dawn, a ship waits at the shore. 1,000 men go filing on, and then 1,000 more. Turning back, no second thoughts, we know there's no getting off this ride. Take a breath.
ladies really getting on this boat with us.
So what if we are?
But what are you doing in that uniform?
Same as you, pal. We came to fight.
Into the gray of a cold March drizzle, into the great gray belly of the beast, into the wide horizon and the fray 3,000 miles east. We die, see you on the other side, see you on the other side.
Paris! Prochain arrêt, Paris!
Boys, do you realize who this is? These are the girls from Central.
You mean we have honest-to-God American operators over here? Hello, girls.
From the day we came to town, we were women of renown. Our surprising rise to fame gave our band a brand new name. Hello, girls. That's what they call us, the Hello Girls.
I bet they wonder how they cope till now with no girls.
There may be men here who are ready to doubt. We got the guts to cut the mustard.
As soon as we're in gear, they're gonna find out that when everything goes through and they're saying no,
We'll save the day and find a way of getting the cost through. Let's go, girls. We're the Hello Girls. We'll be shaking up that stodgy status quo, girls. Since every gal's a telephonic pro, we got a squad of switchboard soldiers here. Hello.
They're wearing hats like us,
They're wearing boots like us.
and someone even taught them how to give salutes like us.
I mean, you'd almost think they're regular recruits like us.
But think how early they will have to wake up to curl their hair and do their makeup.
got the stars like them. We got the stripes like them. They even pay us just as much as army types like them.
We know an awful lot is on the line, but they'll be glad they got us on the line. We're gonna help them get the Kaiser's number and Deacon of
And every doughboy saying, oh boy, we got dope girls.
Now when we ring, we'll be bilingual. We'll run rings around the floor.
If you're French and you're French, we will never be beat.
With our perfect comprehension and our fingers of feet.
And do we even have to mention how it eases all attention every time we hear those sweet voices repeat? Hello.
Captain Reiser, you have done excellent work training and preparing this unit.
Thank you, General Pershing.
Are you confident that Chief Banker can carry on here at Chaumont if I send you to the Amiens sector?
Yes, sir. But what's in the Amiens sector?
Our first offensive of this war. We'll need our signal corps there at the front.
We're ready, sir.
Well, that's very brave, Chief Banker, but I cannot put any of our women in harm's way.
We all knew what we were signing up for.
I'm sorry. I've made my decision. I will be here at headquarters receiving reports from the front. I'll need your team running the switchboards here at Chaumont.
Yes, sir.
Captain Reiser, you leave tomorrow morning. Report to Colonel Hanson Eli upon arrival.
Yes, sir.
today we're up before the sun.
The sky's still dark, the drive has just begun.
The sergeant says before it's through, there will be glory for a few of us. Some will fall.
As the men advance, they lay the wire. We can hear the shell burst and machine gun fire.
After all the training, all the planning and complaining,
All decisions, preparations, and provisions.
after all of that we suddenly this is war after all. And I am there, 100 miles away, but I am there. And I can almost smell the powder in the air. The gleam of bayonets, I can almost see them shine. And I am there. And I am there. We are part of one resistance. We are hearts that span the distance. Yours to mine. There are lives on the line.
and I am there.
And I am there. It was 100 years ago, but I am
One more round of applause for the Hello Girls. Ladies and gentlemen, please continue to enjoy your evening. The bars remain open. Thank you and have a great Fleet Week.